And what do we do if the people aren't around to restore?
Mm.
Because they are, most of the time, they're not going to be.
No.
Yes.
No. And a lot of the time, they're probably unaware that what they've done, or
Exactly. Exactly.
I love this conversation, and I'd love to share a little bit about why this conversation's been so important to me.
Great.
I've moved through multiple experiences in my life where similar to you, Oshala, but I've had hold on, I have a mustache. I have to get off screen to get rid of my mustache.
Oh.
I'm Nancy. I'm so sorry. I'm going to use a word that you just don't like. That I've moved through and worked through, transformed through 2 rapes from 2 people that I really loved and adored. One was a fatherly figure, and one was a really close friend. And as I look back now, I mean, years of nightmares and PTSD triggers and just full on fucking terror to be able to, it pushed me in the direction to find transformation, to find empowerment in those places. I had to, or I would have just suffocated. Right. And so as I started to grow through some of these, learning hypnotherapy and rebirthing and just finding different tools that really helped, I found sorry, Scott, can you actually look forward?
Yeah.
I just need you to look forward. That finding the tools of the empowerment here of finding your tool, Betty, was really important for me. Because I saw it as under self-awareness, right? Oh my God, these are the places where I was living in my codependent patterning, social codependent patterning, and white supremacist, white rapey culture. I'm participating in these ways. And that was an aha for me. Oh shit. And from that place, moving into, so it is a self-awareness, for me, self-awareness piece that I've used, as well as a preventative maintenance piece. And then I found other tools for finding, where we're trying to, I think with consent, this is how I understand it to be, is that we're doing our best to eliminate, or not eliminate, but harm reduction, reduce as much harm as we possibly can. In the past, I've been really cavalier in my needs and I have hurt people. So I'm going to take a step back and breathe through and ask for more, or ask for less, or what do you want? Or get curious about it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I most recently, I do want to share a couple pieces about what the cool little consent practice that I've been doing. There's all these acronyms and little things that you can use. But the one that I found most effective these days is RBDSMAI. Have you heard this? So I'm just going to run through it kind of quickly. So R stands for relationship status, especially for all of us who are living in California. Relationship status is kind of a big thing.
So just let's give context for a second, dear. Yeah. The context being when people are meeting before they go into connection, these are the questions to ask.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just want to give that context.
A connection, whether it's sexual or whether it's some sort of relational. I found this really helpful, just even in some, there's a couple pieces you can lose, but even in just meeting new friends at wherever you might be, especially at the bar or where, or at a festival, oh, these are really helpful. So your relationship status and what are the other person's boundaries? So if you have, or if you're in a non-monogamous, polyamorous conversation, do you have other ties? Who are you dating? Even if you're single, monogamous, and you're dating others, who else thinks that there's connection here? And how do we show up and honor their humanness in this place? And then B, boundaries, which is really important. Again, having enough self-awareness to be hey, I don't like this kind of play. I don't like it when someone touches my throat, or I don't like it when someone objectifies women. I just don't like it. Please don't do that. That's going to be like, in general, I will probably facepalm you. D, desires. And these can be you can use them even in friendships, right? So what are your desires here? What are the desires that you have in this relationship, in this connection, in this friendship, in this sexual experience? Meaning is the M. What is the meaning of this connection or this experience? So if we all go out for lunch tomorrow, what is the meaning that we're going to make of this? Are we now best friends? Am I now required to
Now we're on a date.
Oh, it's been a while. Yeah, exactly. So what is the meaning? And then there's A, aftercare. What do you need after the fact? What's going to happen after like the business meeting? What happens after this? Do I need to, send you an email? Am I going to call you? Or do you just want to like never see me again? And then one thing that I wanted to really
Wait, wasn't there an S in there?
Oh, yes. This one can be dropped. Sorry, BDS. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that in. S is sexual health.
Mm.
And for like, if you're just, working or friendships or whatever, that one can be dropped. But sexual health is a really important conversation. And I think that it's often dropped because of shame.
Sure.
Like it's dropped all the time. And I think that impressing that's a really big piece of like being brave enough to share your sexual experiences with whoever you're going to have sex with and your friends.
Well, and also just given the culture we're living in now, it doesn't have to just be sexual health. Let's face it. What's your belief system and status on getting vaccinated?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is such a big thing.
Oh.
There's the people that are vaccinated, and if you're not vaccinated, you're an irresponsible son of a bitch.
Right. All that judgment.
And if you are anti-vaxxers, it's like, you've got Bill Gates now swimming around in blood.
No, now I'm magnetic.
Yeah.
Right.
I can pick up 5G with my teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
And the last one, that's such a good point. And the last one is intoxication. And this is something that I thought was really, really important. And I also want to expand this particular one, not just to alcohol or drugs, but to heightened states of awareness. Yeah. When you're triggered or when you're emotional, like how are you actually, are you consenting to that? Like if someone trips my, something, like if someone says something to me and I'm all shaken up, is that a place where I'm going to give full authentic consent? Right. And so as we start to look at dissolving rape culture, which is one aspect of white supremacist culture, I think, anyway, is like how we've developed these ways is like, it's really looking at how we can show up in a different way to each other, to take ownership of how we're behaving, as well as taking ownership of how we impact. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious a little bit about, how you guys took that and how that impacted you.
That's pretty thorough. And would that we were all that aware and communicative.
Yeah.
Well, that's why the acronym is really good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like you have something that you can just be like, you want to play this game with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is the acronym again for each one of those? What is the total?
RBDSMAI.
RBDSMS.
That's the easiest acronym.
I know. I probably could.
It's okay.
I've heard you say it.
Well, the BDSM in the middle of it helps to,
Yeah. I probably word. I've sat for hours trying to think about that. Mm-hmm. I learned the RBDSM part from ISTA and added a little bit extra because of, again, like the being in the tantric and touching the tantric and the BDSM worlds. Like there's got to be a little bit extra. And I thought that was really the thoroughness of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nice.
I'm really invested in, I want to change how okay, I'm going to.
Good for you. I just want to say good for you.
I want to change the world and I want to change the conversation. And I would like to do it on a larger scale. And I know that we're all here doing it. And I do think that starting here, and each step, like this is why I really was invested in having both of you on the show. Is like, we're changing the conversation. Mm-hmm. We have to show up to each other. And so it's like, if once we start showing up in our little communities, It's like when I go talk to my super square Montana parents about these types of things, it takes them years to dissolve some of these layers of their perception, just to get to a place of like, oh,
Forget even the middle B
impact.
Yes, right.
I have to think about my impact on another person and ask them questions. Whoa. I'm like, whoa. So, it's alive for me because of the things that I've experienced. And I know that, to be really honest, I know of maybe 2 people, men and women, that haven't had a sexual indiscretion happen to them, or they've participated in one without knowing. So it's like, we need to step back and change the conversation in our culture around consent and around the awareness of how we're behaving.
I think we can agree on that.
I want to say that I want to bring the element of community in, and looking at community and individualism view.
Yeah.
Right. When we're looking at things from the community perspective, that whole idea that things that happen are not just because they're happening to me as an individual. There's a societal link to what is happening. And as you mentioned with your parents, that disconnect, that what's happening is that people are walking around like this. The totally different conversations, like Scott, what you were saying about, people that are on the so-called right and on the so-called left, whatever that means, because there's a lot of stuff in between there. But one thing is that folks aren't even talking. Yeah. There's so many issues that really I could see here, I could see there. But if you're here and here, there's not going to be any communication. There's no circle. So in that community context, rites of passage, being able to be a little girl and to have your rites of passage, like in many African cultures, you have clear rites of passage when you're 7, when you're 14, when you're 21, right? Those are real sacred times where as a little girl, and I'm not talking about societies where there's mutilation and all that, there's plenty of healthy, very healthy contexts around being a woman on the African continent. And in other places of the world, that you have a vagina, right? And that this and the women around that have vaginas and relationships with that, or that are going to have children. And I know I'm talking real binary here, and I know that can be a whole thing, but I'm very binary, right? I mean, I believe in the metaphysics of masculine and feminine energy, and having a feminine body, where, when I was 16, I walked around like this, started to develop breasts. I literally was carrying, it was a man that said, why are you walking around with your hands on, why are you walking around with your hands on your chest, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was so crazy. And yet in my teenage mind, it was really not, or if having sex for the first time, or having someone go down on me for the first time, and like, why would you want to do that? That's nasty. Really, like, why would you want to go down there? Right. And this is real talk, where we're often raised to not, our private body parts. From a young age, we haven't been literally trained or gone through our rites of passage with other men, with other women. If men, when they're 7, those 7-year-olds are around those 14-year-olds and those 21-year-olds and those elders and those grandparents, that then tell these young men, these are the things that are acceptable. These are the ways that you show up for this woman. And then the women and the young girls are learning something also. And, you know, and I think that even in a non-binary world, there's still always masculine and feminine. That's nature. We can't change the dynamic of masculine and feminine energy. That is just nature. That's metaphysics of nature. But being able to learn at an early age, like, what is your responsibility for carrying this penis around with you, right? What is your responsibility for carrying this vagina around with you?
Yeah.
That, you know, I don't really recall, because my mother then passed on all that other stuff that from the 50s. They didn't talk about it. Her mother didn't talk about it. So who's really teaching that? And then do we trust our schools to teach it? So I'm going to just jump out and just say that our societal responsibility as elders is to be able to have those conversations, so that those little young 7-year-olds, 14, because 7 is a whole different thing. But when they get 14, it's like, wow, what to expect? I didn't know what to expect when I first had sex. I had my pants, I had my shirt off, my pants, you know, only thing that was missing was my pants, and I still had my boots on, right? And a hat. Seriously. And all this sounds like deeply traumatic, but it was so normal that this was just the way that you were as a young girl, being around, you know, boys that you liked, and you're supposed to act a certain way to boys that you like, buy them stuff, and all these other kind of things that are swimming in our culture. And those things are still around. And I know that they're still around because I talked to some young girls. So those things are still around. So Betty, the consent, like being able to have the privilege to be a whore, for example, in the different, I want to say the different classes in terms of sex work, those whores that are in the hotels or at their homes, or the hoes that are in the street, you know, and that are doing it. They don't want their children to know that they're doing it, because they're doing it because they need to bring home some food. I think the more that we come together as women for these young girls and really agree as women that these are some of the things that we're like the line, helping them, and the men doing the same thing. So I just want to throw that out for anybody that wanted to comment on that.
Oh, Shala, thank you. That's exactly why I became a sex coach. That's exactly why I am invested in One Love Foundation, which teaches healthy relationship skills to young children. Like, this is why, because I want to be part of the conversation on comprehensive sex education in schools. Like, this is it. This is how we shift. This is how we shift the world and shift culture. Thank you. And it is a community responsibility, and it sucks because our white community, the way that we've developed it, is so severed from each other. We don't take responsibility for creating community or safety or understanding. We haven't done that. And that's why Betty creates the wheel of consent, so that we can have conversations around who's it for.
Yeah.
Because that's not what we have done in the past. And this is what we get to do in the future. The evolution of relationship, the evolution of consent, the evolution of sexuality and safety and community. Yeah. Yes, I'm super lit right now. This is so good.
Well, I'm just kind of kicking back as the white man here, the older white man. You know,
watch your step there, Scott.
Yeah. Thank you. And I actually would kind of wrap us up fairly soon. So, you know, I'd love to open it up to Betty and Oshala to give final thoughts, and then we'll go to Betty, your website. And Oshala, do you want us to
go to Oshala.com, and that kind of takes them down the rabbit hole of what I'm doing, because otherwise
definitely going to that website after
Oshala.com. Betty, someone typed in, because I know Nancy's been very active in the chat, But I said whores because you said that after you introduced yourself, you said that one of the proudest things that you were was being a whore. So I purposely, Nancy did not say escort because Betty is the one who said she was proud of being a whore. She didn't say hoe. She said whore.
Yes, right.
So I just want to clarify that that was Betty embracing the whore in her. So
Yeah.
let's put it up. Let's put it to Betty.
You can blame me for introducing that word to this conversation, and maybe this person missed it. But yeah, I was doing sex coaching. It was called Sacred Intimate at that time, and that's a word that was coined by other people. And erotic guide, all kinds of names because I didn't really have a name for it, and but it was guiding people through erotic experiences and sexual experiences for them to learn something. And so, and it took me a while to really recognize that, oh, this is sex work. Oh, I'm a whore. Oh, look around at all these other fabulous people that are whores and my lineage. So it's something that I learned to see the beauty and the power in sex work.
And you know, I think it's important. And Nancy, I'd love for you to maybe stop writing for a minute and take this in. And thank you for all your contribution. But you know, there's a reason we have these people here speaking. And one of the things I'm learning is that it's not up to me to judge when somebody else claims a word that maybe in our white privileged culture we've decided, oh, that's a bad word. We're not going to use that word. But when Betty claimed it, it was an act of empowerment. And it's our own responsibility to see what our relationship is to that word. And you know what? Everybody else has a right to their relationship to a word, especially when it's a charged word, especially when it's triggered. I would not feel comfortable calling Betty a whore, but I feel very comfortable hearing her claim it. Now, after I've heard her claim it and know that she feels good about that, then we can be playful with it. So there's a difference between when we project it onto someone versus when they claim it as an act of empowerment.
Yeah.
That's true.
This is also part of pronoun usage as well, and gender identities and how we choose to identify, right? Identities, personality, ego stuff. It's like
yeah, and words carry charges. That is just the way of it. And we all have different charges and different meanings that we attach to different words and all that. So that's okay. I haven't been reading the things because I can't do both at once. But yet to find me, bettymartin.org or wheelofconsentbook.com will also get you, and you can get a free chapter of the book at wheelofconsentbook.com.
Okay, so I'll go there in a moment. Here's your website, and of course we can go to the book. And here's how we get a free chapter.
Yep, there's get a free chapter.
There it is. But I like, oh heck, just go ahead and buy the book.
Well, just go buy the book.
Just buy the book.
I love that.
If you, but some people want to get a free chapter to see what it's about and all that stuff. That's fine.
There's my friend Annie.
Yeah.
My junior high school roommate. So beautiful. Thank you. And Betty, really, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. And it's always really cool. It's like, wow, I met Betty Martin tonight. And and you have a beautiful graciousness. I really want to acknowledge that. I'm experiencing you as very gracious.
Thank you.
Reminding me that I want to hear from what's Oshala's bio. And
someone can pull up Oshala.com. You can.
We got it here.
Can we see it?
You can pull it up. But Nancy, you are cracking me up in here when you said that Scott's brown. I was like, I'm looking at his pink shirt, and Scott is about as pink White and pink. I'm sorry, Scott.
No, wait a minute. It's not a pink shirt. It's salmon.
Oh, it's salmon. Okay.
It's
Let's
salmon.
get that
I
straight.
want to, let's be
At least
very clear.
salmon
I don't wear pink. I wear salmon.
He's a salmon man.
The many shades of masculinity. It's okay.
But Nancy said you were kind of brown. I was like,
really
I'm
is.
sorry, Nancy. He is not brown. I've known Scott for a long time. He's not brown. He's salmon. He's salmon. Okay. Yeah, I think what I would like to say is, I want to invite people to come down to the MC Arts Gallery, which is in Marin City, and we definitely we have art classes. It is a gallery of the African diaspora, but we have something for everyone: crystals and incense and body purification things. Lots of art. There's Lumumba there, but if you go to the top of the page, there where it says visit our Fair Trade Gallery boutique, right there in the blue, and you can see here's our gallery. There it is. That's the physical gallery.
So
And
proud of you.
we just have something. We have classes and events, and it really is just a good time to step into just another slice of life. Someone had said, we were on a podcast, and someone says, oh my God, I could never imagine that there were so many artists in Marin City. And one of my artist friends said, well, we know that maybe you thought we were all pimps and hoes down there, but we do other things too. So one of them is art and other things. So, definitely there's a lot going on everywhere. And this is something we really believe in: shopping local, supporting local businesses. And that includes local in other parts of the world too. We really do support small farmers and small vendors and other businesses, as well as our seniors. Many of the people in our group, this is dated, but we have a summer calendar.
All right.
And we really support our seniors, our elders, and our youth also around uplifting culture. And Betty, what you're doing around languaging, and especially in communities where, as Trish was saying, that just being aware that people are out there completely talking, like I can translate this conversation because Scott knows that I live in two different worlds, right? But there'll be some people, coming out of my community be like, what in the hell are they talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, the arts are really the bridge for us to be able to begin to, because we're all human and we all have sex, and and especially as women and men, we all know that push and pull that goes on, that whole issue of consent. It gets tricky when that in my instance, that the African family, because of what's been going on, has been purposely attempted to be pulled apart. So then as a woman, then I'm dealing with my own stuff, and then having to look at my man and my son and their stuff too. And it's like, well, wait a minute, I'm valuable in this conversation too, but feeling like we have to hold all that. And sometimes we do have to hold all that. And I'm not ashamed to say that as a woman, that sometimes it's okay to hold it. It's okay to hold that. At the same time, being able to really educate our boys and our men that, we can't just hold it all the time. We can't. But sometimes that deep part of us that yin part of us, can hold it, but not forever.
Thank you, Rochella. I love you so much. I think we're getting close to we got to be past 40 years we've known each other.
That's a long time. It's
Y'all
all
aren't
relative.
old enough for that.
So looking forward to the next 40 years with you, Rochella.
Oh yeah, I'll be dancing.
You will be.
Yes, I will.
And I'll be calling you saying, this is what I'm producing.
Okay, what you doing, Scott? What you doing? What you doing over in the new age world? What are you doing now?
New age?
No, it's true though. Come on.
No, I got it. No, I'm there with you. Yeah.
Come on. It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Come on,
Is
and
it-
Scott
is
knows
an elephant
that.
in the room? No, I was a flower child. I went to 12 years old and saw Jim Morrison and was never the same. So
It's all good. And you know what? Thank goodness for because the thing about the New Age community that we often see in the African communities is that intention of love is there. You know, there's those intentions are there around that, and so that is very much appreciated. And so it's really about communication, and I do believe that arts are a way for us to be able to get through these conversations, especially, Betty, like when it comes to sex, and to be able to talk about these issues that may miss people. But I think your wheel is very powerful because it does speak to people individually.
Mhm.
Everyone can relate to take and give and serve and
Mhm.
you know, and the shadow sides of all
and
those
yeah,
things.
I love the shadow side part of it.
I love the shadow side.
Yeah, because it's so
Brilliant.
important for us to look at, okay, where's my shadow? Right? Where do I fall on the wheel? And then
Mhm.
where do I have to be careful? Where do I have to look and own? So
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
It's so human.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you both for your time. I'll send you copies of the video. This will live forever on our YouTube channel. Um, and um, and thank you for anybody watching. Again, the majority of the people who watch this show watch the replay, especially now it's summertime and it's Friday nights and people can
Yeah,
go
but what the
out.
heck are you doing in here on a Friday night?
Yeah, people can go out again now. You know, when we first started doing the shows during pandemic, everybody was home and bored. You know, now it's like the Zoom's not quite as exciting as it was. But a lot of people come and watch the replays, and there's just so much wisdom all three of you have shared, really. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And
Thank
have a
you.
beautiful
Thank you, Scott.
weekend.
Thanks for
See,
asking.
that's how you
and
can
you know
tell
what?
it's new age because we're doing this.
Yeah, that's right. Namaste. Namaste.
Or I
I do want to actually do a little pitch for people watching. Tomorrow night's Saturday Night Live, and it's going to be a special one. And every Saturday Night Live we do a special and good. But tomorrow we are focusing on equality in relationships, social and racial justice. Antoinette Hall is going to be our co-host. Trisha's teacher, Reverend Rich Feltus, is joining us. And we're going to have also leaders from the indigenous world. Chief Reuben George, Chase Iron Eyes. Chase Iron Eyes was the primary attorney that won the battle of Standing Rock.
Wow. Yeah.
Alexandra
Please
Loves
be.
is an amazing presenter. And music, of course, with Pato Bounton, who's going to be with us live.
Yeah.
Ray and Trisha and I are co-hosting as well. So everybody join us tomorrow night for Saturday Night Live. It's going to be a very powerful and a wonderful show. All right.
Thank you, Scott, with your brown self, right? Yeah. I'm
No,
still Nancy. I'm still trying. Nancy, I'm still trying to. I'm still trying to see it's brown, but maybe I'm colorblind.
Go get a tan.
maybe it's a
my Mediterranean will. My salmon shirt. I just want to make it clear this is salmon.
Thank you, Betty, for your
Thank
time.
you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thanks again.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you, everyone.
Really great meeting you, Oshala.
Bye bye. Likewise, Betty. Bye bye. We'll see each other again. I know.
Yep.